Hey folks, I know it's been a while, but Blackmagic Design has released DaVinci Resolve 20.1. With the release of DaVinci Resolve 20.1, a few tools have been optimized or the range of functions have been extended. What I've been drawn to, however, is the split tone effect, which is well constructed. So let's get into the details. No matter if you're doing extensive digital look development, just trying to emulate film, or grading a few clips with time restrictions, but still wanting to get some sauce onto your footage that really makes an impact, a proper contrast curve with split toning gets you almost to the 18% mark to finished image real quick. Split toning on paper seems really easy. Traditionally, you would push some hue into the highlights and a complementary hue into the shadows or vice versa. This is common practice, yet a very broad definition of the term. It may sound easy, but it's not easy done in a correct or let's say tasteful way. Especially if you want to maintain the creative intent of the image when it has been captured. What do I mean by that? Firstly, the exposure should stay where it is, and secondly, the relationship between middle gray and shadows and highlights needs to be maintained. But that's not all. Also, we want to ensure that neutrals need to stay. Guess what? Neutral. So deepest blacks and pure whites should remain pure. Bonus points if you anchor your middle gray too. So let's imagine doing this with a 1D curve, which we will find here. So let's say this is our final split toning, and that's the process I would have done in the beginning of my journey. And as you can see, it's so tiresome to just dial in your color scheme with all those curves, still protecting the highlights, maybe adjusting the highlights, like sliding it up. Actually, if you didn't know, you can press down the option, the Alt key, whether you're on Microsoft, on Windows or Mac, and just slide it down and up, the linear curve, which gives you a really precise element of dialing in your anchor points. And you just fiddle with it, and it's really finicky, and it doesn't bring much joy if you had to do it this way. Now, coming back to the issue with dialing in this look, because all the time you do an adjustment, you have to do it on every channel. It's really finicky, and most of us avid users used specific DCTLs designed to make this process way easier with sliders in the past. And I have to admit, I still do this, and I will continue to do so, as it's really quick and efficient. Especially when it comes to dialing in the length of the shoulder and toe and how steep the curve is. Getting back to why I initially wanted to make this video, the release of DaVinci Resolve 20.1 also features the release of the split tone OFX. And with the addition of the split tone effect, which we can easily drop onto our node by searching the effects for split tone, and there it is already. Just drop it onto it. Now for a better visualization, we turn on the ramp. So within the plugin we have three settings. A basic option, which is natural. This is complementary color split, where you only dial in the strength and the tool will automatically put a matching hue into the shadows or highlights, resulting in a really beautiful crafted image. Then there is a stronger option, which I'm not a big fan of. Remember, subtle nuances beat a bucket of paint on the canvas. And lastly, there is a custom option where you can manually pump a specific hue into the upper or lower half of the image. So let's have some fun with the tool. As I've stated previously, the natural look is really gorgeous. I really like it. I really love this addition to the effects panel. It really is great. So if we turn off the plugin and enable it again, you have to admit it looks great. So firstly, we would pinpoint middle gray, which is 0.336 on DaVinci Wide Gamut. Then we would adjust the strength, and we can go overboard a little bit. We can always dial back. When you go onto the Hue Angle Slider, you basically determine the hue on the hue band and this is corresponding to the highlight hue. So it will automatically pump in the complementary hue on the bottom of the image. And let's say we'll go for a cool blue wash. What's also cool about this is with one click we will neutralize the color shifts in the blacks and the whites. So those remain pure. Middle gray, not so much, but if we dial back the strength, this image looks really cool, really nice. I dig this look. Now, when it comes to the stronger look, I'm not the big fan of it. Even if I reset the tool, it's just too stark of a look. So you also have the options to dial down the blend of the image, but it doesn't look that good. This look is still overwhelming. I think it really looks like just a wash. I'm just an advocate for natural. I would dial in my settings with this preset, which is much easier, but you can also go to custom, and then you would click on influence to have a visual representation of what's going on, and you can dial in any hue you want. So let's say we go for a green look in the shadows, and we go for purple in the highlights, and well, that's our look. We can go that way. We can also dial it back. So this really makes for a great split toning plugin, as you're not dependent on either a complementary or a monotone look. You can dial in whatever you want. What's also cool is if we go back to natural and reset the blend, we can also go to color space overrides. Of course, they all point to DaVinci White Gamut right now, but you can choose whatever you want. The output white point is an interesting option, which is oftentimes only provided by film emulation plugins, which adjusts the color temperature of your target white. So traditionally, D55 is a really warm white tone, and D65 is a cool tone. D60 is neutral, as you can see. You can even exaggerate this by clicking D50 for a really warm image and D75 respectively for a really cool image. This gives you the option to still maintain a strong split toning look. For instance, this was the warm in the highlight look, but we cooled down the highlight. So if we go for a strong and a warm temperature in the highlights, our split toning scheme will even be kind of boosted, as you can see here. This is such a powerful tool for look development. It's essential for any sophisticated grade which wants to preserve a natural looking image, in my opinion. As I mentioned before, you don't have the control about where and when the split toning is happening exactly, especially when it comes to shoulder and toe and how steep the curve is. This can only be achieved by messing with the curves in tedious work or by relying on external DCTLs, as mentioned before. Nonetheless, if you are new to this kind of pushing or specific separation in your grade, I really like the value this update gives to DaVinci Resolve Studio users. So feel free to try it out and give it a shot and have fun with it.